Nostradamus Final Prophecy Decoded. The 13th of August, 2025 will change everything. Prophecy 2025. Time doesn't just pass, it weaves, looping past and future into the fabric of our present. In that weave, ancient voices keep returning, and among them, one still echoes louder than most: Nostradamus. Whispers speak of a final prophecy hidden not just in words, but in patterns of history, in events unfolding right now before our eyes. And no matter which way you follow the threads, they seem to tighten around a single moment: August 13th, 2025. Not as a doomsday headline, but as a doorway, a point in time, asking us to wake up and notice what's shifting. This isn't about blind belief, it's about awareness. Step into the riddle, look at the signs, test them, and see what speaks to you. If something inside you stirs, whether you call it instinct, memory, or something deeper, follow it with clarity. The purpose here isn't fear, but understanding, to see the patterns we've missed, to reclaim the power we still hold, and to face the future with our eyes truly open. Let's begin. Number 1. Origins of the Cipher. The story of this mysterious riddle begins in an unexpected place, not within the famous pages of Nostradamus' Les Prophéties, nor in the well-known quatrains scholars have been debating for centuries, but in something far stranger. This text lives outside his recognized body of work, almost like a forgotten child of history, an orphan to the official record, yet it carries a weight and allure that is hard to ignore. Because it exists beyond the verified canon, its authenticity is automatically questioned, but perhaps that is what makes it so compelling. A mystery that doesn't neatly fit into the box of accepted history has a way of drawing people closer, precisely because it stands at the edge of what we can prove and what we can only feel. The first whispers of its existence trace back not to a library or academic archive, but to the underground vaults of the Abbey of San Romina in Provence, a place steeped in silence and secrecy. No grand title graces the first page, no date marks its creation, no author's name claims responsibility. Instead, what we find is something far more intriguing: brittle, time-worn pages written in iron gall ink, whose faded strokes still manage to command attention. And there, standing alone on one page like a silent guardian, is a single haunting emblem, a stylized sun, half swallowed by a crescent moon, encircled by 13 stars. It's an image that speaks two languages at once. In the literal sense, it's a cosmic event, light being overtaken by shadow. In the symbolic sense, it marks a threshold, a crossing from one state into another. Even the number 13 feels intentional just beyond the perfect symmetry of 12. It represents a step outside order, into the unknown, the space between worlds. The script itself deepens the mystery. It doesn't resemble Latin, Greek, Hebrew, or any of the languages Nostradamus was known to use. It refuses to yield to the common ciphers and encryption methods that historians and code-breakers instinctively reach for. Instead, within certain occult and esoteric circles, it came to be called the Linerscow, not so much a language as a collection of arcane marks that seem to blend symbols, diagrams, and alchemical shorthand. It is intentionally difficult, resisting the reader's urge to simply skim and understand. The very structure forces patience, contemplation, and perhaps even a different kind of reading, a reading where the mind has to surrender to the possibility that not everything is meant to be decoded at once. When we place all these elements together, the manuscript's absence from any official record, the eerie setting of its discovery, the strange eclipse sigil encircled by 13 stars, and a script that defies classification, we begin to sense that this is no ordinary document. It doesn't behave like a final chapter in a book that neatly ties up loose ends. Instead, It feels like a final seal, something designed not to explain, but to protect. Its purpose might not be to hand us answers, but to challenge us, to pull us across a threshold where text becomes experience, where reading turns into a personal trial. Whether that crossing leads to genuine insight or merely a carefully crafted illusion, that is the riddle at the heart of the prophecy, and the journey to uncover it has only just begun. Number 2. Decoding through sound and the point of convergence. In 2009, researcher Alois Skardit reframed the hunt by asking us to listen rather than stare, saying the script wasn't meant for eyes, but for ears. The moment you swap reading for listening, you start to feel the logic of lines turning into tones. Instead of grammar, think frequency. Instead of syntax, think resonance. If you've ever felt a song move you in ways a paragraph couldn't, you already understand the idea. Treat the manuscript like a score. Working from that simple pivot, Skardit introduced the pages to carefully stepped harmonic sequences tuned to planetary cycles, not the equal-tempered scales you hear on a piano. Under hyperspectral analysis, the old iron gall ink did something odd. It seemed to respond. Some marks brightened, others softened, and the scattered glyphs slowly drifted into clear patterns, as though an unheard rhythm was pulling them into place. What came out was not a sentence but a signature, a kind of time mark encoded in vibration. When the math settled, the sequence resolved on a single date, August 13th. That date began appearing like a thread woven through astronomical alignments, ritual calendars, and esoteric numerology. Depending on how you see the world, this is either a compelling beacon or just another example of the mind finding patterns. Either way, the cipher now points like a compass toward a moment that asks for your attention. The real question becomes, if a text wants to be heard, how would you listen to it in your own life? Skardit takes an even bolder step by overlaying the harmonic sigil onto a global map of the Earth's rumored ley lines, those hypothesized corridors of geomantic energy. The figure reportedly locks at a major node, Mount Shasta, California. Long treated in esoteric lore as a threshold site where stories about hidden cities and strange lights endure, Mount Shasta becomes the narrative's anchor. As a storyteller, I'm not asking you to accept any of that, only to notice how the story grounds itself in a real landscape you can stand on, touch, and walk. The forecast that follows keeps the same tone. At local solar noon on August 13th, 2025, the claim is of a threefold convergence: solar, cosmic, and terrestrial frequencies synchronizing at that node. It's not a prediction in the tabloid sense, but a proposed tuning moment. If the cipher is a score, Mount Shasta is the instrument, and the date is when someone strikes the note. What happens then, rupture or revelation, is left to the listener. Which brings us back to you. What would it mean for you to approach that day as a practice in listening, not to rumors or fear, but to the quality of attention you bring to your own life? If this story is right, sound becomes a bridge between text and experience. If it's wrong, the exercise still offers a gift, because learning to tune your focus is useful no matter what unfolds in the sky. So ask yourself, what in your daily routine is static you could lower, and what is signal you could raise? What does local solar noon invite you to do? Stand still, breathe, and align with the simplest rhythm of shadow and light. And if you were to treat August 13th as a mirror rather than a forecast, what intention would you set? What conversation would you start? And what kindness would you make non-negotiable? The baton then passes to Eloise Gardet, who treats the whole thing as acoustics rather than language. She feeds the pattern into a harmonic spectrum analyzer. Instead of letters, a shape keeps appearing, a clean, recurring sigil, a resonance symbol, as she calls it, implying the message wasn't meant to be read so much as tuned to. It's a simple idea with a brave consequence. Truth might present itself more like a pitch than a paragraph. From there, the motif refuses to stay on the page. People start noticing echoes of its geometry in unexpected places, the Nazca lines in Peru with their vast earth-drawn figures, and the intricate crop circles in southern England that spark debate every summer. Whether you see evidence or coincidence, the repetition invites the same humble question. When symbols repeat across time and place, do we dismiss them, or do we pause and look again? Number 3. The meaning of August 13th. Let me take you deeper into the heart of this mystery, because August 13th isn't just a date on a page. It's presented in this story as a hinge between two great gates of meaning. In the lore that surrounds it, it sits right after the so-called Lion's Gate on August 8th, a period that mystics and astrologers describe as a surge of cosmic energy, and just before the heliacal rising of Sirius, the brilliant star the ancient Egyptians linked to Isis, the goddess of renewal, the life-giving floods of the Nile, and the promise of rebirth. One moment is framed as an opening, the other as an announcement, and together they form a threshold, a point where one phase closes and another is called into being. The storytellers aren't just picking dates, they're building a symbolic bridge, and August 13th is the midpoint you're asked to stand on. Now, if we travel far from Egypt and into Mesoamerican thought, this date takes on another echo. In Mayan cosmology, August 13th is tied to the beginning of a new cycle, often referred to as the birth of the fifth sun, which isn't about a smooth continuation, but about a civilizational reset, a deep shift in the human story. It's presented less as a single day you can circle on a calendar, and more like a drumbeat you can feel in your bones. The cadence of endings making way for beginnings, and there's more numbers themselves are folded into the meaning. In numerology, August 13th reduces to 8 plus 1 plus 3 equals 12, a number long associated with completeness and wholeness, 12 months in a year, 12 signs in the zodiac, 12 points on a clock. But the 13 in the date stands just beyond that completion, representing transformation, liminality, the unsettling but necessary step that carries you out of the familiar circle and into the unknown. So the story says, the math isn't random, it's a coded countdown to crossing over. All of this would already make the date intriguing, but when you turn your eyes to the sky of 2025, the pattern deepens. Astrologically, August 13th falls under the rare influence of Saturn, the planet of structure, limits, and karmic lessons, moving into conjunction with Neptune, the planet of dreams, illusions, and boundless vision, both positioned in Pisces. This meeting only happens about once every 165 years, and it's described as stone meeting mist, the solid boundaries of institutions softening, the illusions we live by being revealed, old frameworks dissolving so that new ones can be built. It's a cycle that historically has marked profound shifts in culture, governance, and belief systems. When you step back and hold all of this together, star lore from Egypt, sacred calendar echoes from the Maya, numerological symbolism, and the rare dance of the planets, you see why August 13th, 2025, is framed in this narrative as far more than a square on the calendar. It becomes a convergence point, a gathering of signs, a proposed invitation to look closely at your own life and the world around you. What patterns are ending? What seeds are you planting for what comes next? Whether you take the prophecies literally or treat them as poetic markers, the question remains the same. If a date can act as a mirror, what will it reflect back to you? And are you ready to cross whatever threshold it shows? If you've watched this far, you're already among the few ready to uncover the truth behind Nostradamus's final prophecy. Comment below with prophecy revealed to show you're ready to face what August 13th, 2025 may bring. Don't click away, there's still a powerful revelation ahead that could change how you see the future forever. Stay until the end to witness the full picture. Number 4. Clues from the Black Book of Marseilles. The trail of this story winds forward to 1963, when a fire tore through part of Marseilles' old quarter, leaving behind smouldering ruins and unanswered questions. In the days that followed, as ash still clung to the air, there are accounts of a Vatican-sanctioned recovery effort uncovering a small, charred volume, untitled, undated, bound in leather blackened by flame. This relic, whispered about in esoteric circles, would come to be called the Black Book of Marseilles, and while some claim Nostradamus himself may have touched it in his final fevered days, the truth of its authorship remains beyond proof. That uncertainty is exactly why it pulls people in. When a mystery refuses to confirm or deny itself, it becomes harder to look away. Unlike the cryptic manuscripts filled with indecipherable script, the Black Book speaks in images. Inside, familiar constellations appear but inverted, as though the heavens are being read through a mirror. Planetary alignments are sketched in reverse, turning the natural order back on itself, as if time has been bent or rewound. And there, unmistakably, is the sigil we've seen before. The sun eclipsed by a crescent moon, encircled by 13 stars. Its reappearance ties the Black Book directly to the earlier cipher, suggesting this is not a separate thread of mystery but a parallel strand of the same woven pattern, only here the language is not written text but symbolic vision. Among the plates, one image stands apart and refuses to be forgotten: a city skyline, eerily reminiscent of Tokyo or San Francisco. It is split open by a jagged bolt of light that arcs from dense cloud to restless sea. Below, water and flame mingle in a single chaotic embrace, suggesting that whatever event is pictured is both elemental and overwhelming. Beneath this haunting scene is a terse, cryptic annotation, 13 out MX5. And here is where the debate begins. Could 13 out be a temporal marker, a reference to August 13th, or perhaps a 13th hour, a time that sits just beyond the ordinary clock, hinting at a moment outside of measured time? Could it be a threshold code, 13 as the number that comes after completion, out, marking the crossing from what is known into what is not? And what of MX5? Some see it as an astral shorthand, a coordinate in code, a catalogue entry, or an amalgam of meanings. M for Marseille or Mount, X as a crossing or intersection, and 5 for the quinary cycles in certain mystical traditions. Yet none of these theories settle into certainty, and that might be the point. The Black Book, if genuine, doesn't work as a prophecy in the simple sense of "this will happen." Instead, it behaves like a mirror held up to the same symbols found in the cipher but translated into vision, layering image over riddle until the two are inseparable. And just like the earlier clues, it doesn't claim to hand us answers, it asks us to choose how we see. Look at the skyline. Is it foretelling destruction or transformation? Is it a map of where to be or where to avoid? Or is it something more personal, a picture that draws out what we already carry in our own thoughts? The Black Book will not resolve the question. It only places the image before us and leaves the rest, perhaps the awakening itself, in our hands. Number 5. Links to other prophets. Let me bring you to the next thread in this unfolding tapestry, because this story doesn't rest solely on Nostradamus. It stretches across traditions, cultures, and centuries. What's striking is how voices from completely different worlds seem to echo the same rhythm, all pointing toward the middle of August 2025. We start with Baba Vanga, the Balkan mystic whose cryptic phrases have fueled endless debates. One of her lines reads like a riddle: "When the stars cry and silence screams." Taken literally, it's impossible. But if you let the symbolism breathe, it paints the picture of a moment when the heavens themselves mourn, when something profound spills from the sky, and when humanity finally hears the truth that stillness has been whispering all along. Many interpreters place this moment in mid-August 2025, aligning it with the very date our journey has been circling. Then there's Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, who in trance spoke not of destruction, but of awakening. He described a returning vibration, not heard as sound, but felt in the body, that would stir dormant strands of human potential, awakening ancient memory and widening consciousness. In this view, the change is not a catastrophe to fear, but a quickening to embrace, a shift in how much we can sense, understand, and connect. From the East, another layer emerges through Hindu scripture, where the third quarter of 2025 is framed as a threshold for the coming of Kalki, the final avatar, who dissolves deception and restores Dharma, the universal order of truth and righteousness. Whether you take this figure as a literal being riding into history, or as an archetype for clarity itself, entering a confused age, the image holds the same weight, renewal arriving when it's most needed. Three very different seers, three very different vocabularies. One speaks of lament, another of resonance, another of renewal, yet all point toward the same horizon. None of this fixes August 2025 as a proven date. The world doesn't work in certainties that neat. But taken together, these voices frame it as a kind of listening post, a time when the patterns and signals woven through history seem to grow louder, asking us to pause and notice what they're telling us. So the real question becomes, when you reach that moment, will you be too distracted to hear, or will you be ready to listen, not just to prophecy, but to the quiet truths in your own life? Here is the lesson I want you to carry forward. Wisdom rarely arrives as a thunderclap. It comes as a series of echoes, and the value isn't in chasing the date, but in preparing the mind and heart, so that when change comes, you can meet it with awareness, courage, and compassion. Whether August 2025 is a turning point for the world, or simply another day on the calendar, you can choose to make it a turning point for yourself. The most important prophecy is the one you fulfill in the way you live. Number 6. Digital prophecy and AI. Let me take you into the most modern strand of this prophecy's web, because here we step out of dusty archives and into the circuitry of our own time. In 2023, a language model designed to reconstruct lost scripts was reportedly fed fragments of the mysterious Lina Scow. What came back was not the garbled nonsense you might expect from a damaged code, but a line so precise, so unsettlingly deliberate, that it felt as if the machine had been waiting to say it. When the sun crosses the crying gate and man speaks without tongue, 13 shall pass and the mirror shall turn. Whether you treat this as a poetic glitch or a genuine signal, it lands with the force of a compass needle snapping to true north. Those who study such things began dissecting the phrase piece by piece. Man speaks without tongue suddenly doesn't sound mystical at all. It sounds technological, pointing to brain-computer interfaces, neural link systems, and ways of transmitting thought into text without a single spoken word. The mirror shall turn carries the chill of inversion, not us looking into our machines, but our machines looking back into us, not just processing our commands, but sensing our intentions, our emotional states, even the subtle shifts in our attention. And then there's 13 shall pass, which for some becomes a clock note, either marking August 13th itself or hinting at an unseen 13th hour outside of ordinary time. When these ideas are placed on the calendar, the tension sharpens, because August 13th, 2025 is not just a date highlighted by cryptic manuscripts. It is, according to rumors and product roadmaps, also the moment when several tech giants are poised to unveil the next generation of neural technology, non-invasive brain-computer interfaces with far greater precision, in wearable neural meshes that can record and transmit thought in near real time, and prototypes for silent human-machine communication that could change the way we interact forever. Coincidence? Perhaps. But the alignment of prophecy and product launch is striking enough to make even skeptics raise an eyebrow. In this light, AI isn't predicting the future so much as amplifying a change already in motion, giving language to a transition our culture has been building toward for years. The prophecy goes digital, swapping the drama of a trumpet blast for the quiet precision of a firmware update, a subtle but irreversible flip of the mirror that changes who is doing the observing. And so I ask you, if the day comes when you can speak without speaking and think into the machine without touching a key, what will you choose to say? Will you treat this as just another tool, or will you see it as a threshold that changes how human you are willing to remain? The lesson here is simple but vital. Technology may accelerate what prophecy only hinted at, but it is still our intention, our ethics, and our awareness that decide what these tools become. The date might carry mystery, but the responsibility for what happens next will always belong to us. If you're still watching, you've already stepped into the circle of those who seek the truth. Comment "Future Unlocked" to mark your place among the few who will face the prophecy head-on. The most important part is yet to come. Stay until the last second to see the vision that could change everything you believe about the future. Number 7. The final message, the choice. In the unfolding of Nostradamus's mysterious vision, there is no neat ending handed to us like the last page of a story. Instead, he leaves a question sharp enough to pierce through our comfort, yet simple enough to echo in the quiet of our own minds. Will you see through the veil or become part of it? This is the turning point, the place where all threads converge. August 13th, 2025 is not written as an unchangeable fate, nor as a doom stamped upon the calendar by destiny's hand. It is instead shown as a catalyst, an exact moment that can split into two vastly different experiences. For some, it may feel like the world is cracking, as if all familiar structures are collapsing around them. For others, it may feel like the very first breath of a greater, more expansive awareness, like stepping out of a dimly lit room into the vast light of day. The striking truth is that the real difference will not lie in the external events alone, but in the way we meet them, the posture of our mind and heart when that day arrives. And here lies the quiet but urgent invitation. To wake up does not mean to rush into panic, nor to blindly believe every whisper of warning, nor to be swept into the frenzy of those shouting the loudest. It means to rise into clear, steady attention, to see with eyes unclouded by fear or false hope. It means to test what resonates deeply within, to verify what can be verified, and to resist the narcotic pull of spectacle that lures the mind into passivity. The veil that Nostradamus speaks of is not some physical shroud descending from the skies. It is the subtle web woven of fear, distraction, and the easy comfort of borrowed certainty. To see through it requires patience and the courage to stand in the truth, even when that truth feels small, plain, or unadorned compared to the seduction of grand illusions. If we understand it in this way, prophecy ceases to be a fixed script about the future and instead becomes a mirror reflecting not a single path we are forced to walk, but the shape of our own inner state. The date, the 13th of August, 2025, will not decide who we are or what we will become. We decide that in the quiet choices we make now, long before the moment arrives. Every decision to pause instead of react, to seek clarity instead of noise, to act from awareness rather than fear, is a thread we are weaving into the fabric of that day. In the end, the veil will not be lifted for us. It will be lifted by us, each in our own way. And so, The prophecy is not a sentence handed down, but an invitation to stand awake when the rest of the world may be drifting into sleep. It is the moment when we choose consciously and with both eyes open whether we will be merely carried along by the tide of events or whether we will stand as a steady point of clarity within it. Number 8. The day of practice living the prophecy. If the cipher, the sigils, and the echoes of other prophets have all been leading to August 13th, 2025, then this part of the story steps off the page and into your own hands. It is not enough to know the date, the real work is in how you meet it. The manuscripts whisper of thresholds, alignments, and moments when the veil thins, but they never tell you exactly what to do. That is the missing line, and perhaps they left it blank so you could write it yourself. For those who wish to meet this day with clear attention rather than restless speculation, here is the shape of a practice drawn from the old patterns, yet made for modern life. At dawn, before you look at a screen or speak a word, step outside or stand by a window. Let your eyes find the horizon. This is not about worship or ritual. It is about remembering that you live in a world that turns, and you are part of its turning. At local solar noon, when your shadow draws closest beneath you, stop what you are doing. Close your eyes, breathe deeply 3 times, and place your focus on one word or image you wish to carry forward. In the law, this is when the instrument is struck. You become the listener and the note at the same time. In the afternoon, offer a small, deliberate kindness without announcing it. Help someone, forgive someone, or speak a truth you've been holding back. In the geometry of prophecy, action is a frequency, and kindness changes the field. At night, write down what you noticed, what felt different, what patterns revealed themselves, what conversations arose. This is your record, your personal black book, not to be sealed in a vault, but to remind you that even the most mysterious days become part of a lived story once you pass through them. The texts say that a date like this is less a warning than a mirror. On the 13th of August, the outer world may shimmer with signs and strange alignments, but the real convergence is in the meeting point between your attention and your choices. In the end, prophecy is never about what the stars will do. It is about how you stand beneath them. And so, whether August 13th, 2025 unfolds as prophecy, coincidence, or simply another day, the true power lies in how we choose to meet it. Nostradamus's final vision is less about predicting the future and more about preparing the mind to see clearly, to act wisely, and to live with intention in each moment. If this journey has stirred something in you, a question, a possibility, a spark, carry it forward. And if you'd like to keep exploring the hidden patterns of history, the echoes of prophecy, and the timeless lessons they hold for our lives today, join us here on The Journey of Wisdom. Like this video, share it with those who seek deeper meaning, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss what's coming next. The next chapter may be closer than you think, and together we'll be ready to meet it with open eyes.